Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Glad everybody's here. Hope you're staying safe out there on the roads as you're shopping for Christmas goodies here. It wasn't really too bad here today, but you know, there's still a lot of people out there, but I guess you know, I don't know the weather. I mean, last night around 2:30 in the morning, somebody was outside trying to get their vehicle out of what I thought they were stuck in the ice. They were there for a good hour, you know, and I'm thinking, you know, Jesus, you know, give it up. But eventually, I guess they got out of there because I fell asleep, and when I woke up, car wasn't there. But I went in the back, and I saw what happened is he wasn't stuck on ice. He was stuck in the mud, okay, on the side of the road there where you go into the back of the building here. Somehow he got himself off the road and into the mud, and he couldn't get out of it. So I was like, wow. But he was driving a car, so I guess I could see how he was having a hard time getting it out, because I mean, you got the car kind of sitting on its side there, because there's the road, and then it kind of goes down into a gully like, and it was right on that edge there where his car got stuck. So he was out there trying to get it out, and eventually he did. But you know, mud is worse, because I mean, if you're on ice, you can always throw dirt or salt or something under the tire. And that you could get out, but in the mud, forget it. I mean, if you're stuck in mud like that bad, I mean, the only thing that's going to get you out of there is a tow, you know. But I don't know if that's how he got out, but you know, he was stuck there for a while. Okay, well, there's you know, this video here rather that I want to play here of you know, a bunch of libertarians are having a fit because Trump didn't put any libertarians in his cabinet picks, you know, and he promised them that he would, and now they're all mad, okay? And it's like, you know, why? Why are you mad? You should have known that he was going to do that. He's only going to do things his way. You can't tell him to put this person on there or that person or, you know, this group of people or that. He already had it in his head who he was going to pick to be in his cabinet, okay? And libertarian was not on the menu. But he told you that to shut you up and make sure that you voted for him. Now that he got your vote, he don't care. He doesn't care, so get mad all you want, you know? And here's the funny thing, is that, you know, the libertarians are sitting there, you know, posting all over the place about this, and at the same time, they're sitting there trying to say that they will never trust a two-party system again. And I'm like, so Trump doesn't deliver what you want, and somehow you're going to lump the Democrats in there with that as the reason why. Okay, all right, that's a stretch. Anyway, let's go to the video here, and we'll talk about that on the way out.
Donald Trump is feeling the wrath once again from a key voting bloc in his coalition who has taken credit for his win. And now these voters who say that Trump lied to them are threatening to withdraw their support of him and are promising to never again help somebody like Trump get to the White House. Yeah, That's right, these voters are just now realizing that Trump is not a man of his word. My name is Brett Meiselas with the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe and help us get to 4 million subscribers. Libertarian voters are already feeling slighted by Donald Trump and his new administration. Libertarians at least claim to be about very small government, and they are now seeing Trump trying to increase the power of the federal government like never before. But perhaps what is making them most upset is this. Do you remember when Trump went to the Libertarian Convention back in May and he tried to kick out all the libertarians and replace them with MAGA loyalists? Well, when that didn't work out, Trump got ruthlessly booed and he began making promises to the libertarians to try to win them over. One of these promises was telling them that he would commit to having a libertarian in his cabinet and in high-level positions. Now, I know we are trying not to show clips of Trump here, but I'm going to take exception to this short clip of Trump being booed, and I want to remind you of this moment so that we could track the history of the fallout between Trump and the libertarians. Watch this.
That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get you 3% and meet again, get another 3%.
So now Trump has picked all of his major nominees for his cabinet, and guess what? He did not select a single libertarian. Wait, Trump lied? Obviously, I'm being sarcastic, but the libertarians who supported Trump and take credit for his win are genuinely furious. Chase Oliver, a libertarian who ran for president, wrote the following: "So now we have an entire cabinet roster, 0 libertarians. This should surprise no one, but I imagine there's a few folks who feel like Trump lied to them. Yes, he did. It's what he does. He's part of the same political machine that the Libertarian Party has always opposed since our founding in 1971. Get ready for more lies and disappointment, and let's all get to work building a party that will grow and challenge the broken two-party system. My work is just getting started. #libertarian. Then somebody responded to Chase saying, quote, "I don't remember Trump promising to pick libertarians," to which Chase replied, "I do. I was in the room when he did. We've been given assurances by the Libertarian National Committee chair for months, and yet we do not have any libertarians or even a libertarian in the cabinet. The moral of the story, don't trust the two-party system. I didn't, and I won't." A libertarian podcaster reposted the video of Trump that I showed you before and wrote, quote, "Respectfully, I would love to know what happened to this promise. I was sitting 5th row center stage. At minimum, I would like an explanation. I think many of us would." A fan of that podcaster replied, quote, "Politicians lie because it is in their nature. He got your vote, and that's all he needed from you. Guys like you and @comic Dave Smith are the ones who taught me lessons like that, yet you still voted for him. I'm not here to give you shit for that. I get why you did it. I just find it a bit ironic that you seem surprised this is the result." End quote. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, who has written some of the most reprehensible things that I have seen online, and that is saying a whole lot, wrote, quote, "Libertarians won the election for Donald Trump. If Trump does not fulfill his side of the bargain, then libertarians should win the election for someone more honest next time." Nicholas Sarwark, who is the head of the Libertarian Party Institute, posted an image of the cabinet picks and wrote, quote, "There are no libertarians pictured below. This is unsurprising." Republican Senator Rand Paul, who considers himself a libertarian, went on CBS over the weekend and spoke out against Trump's plans to send the military into cities to conduct mass deportations. To be clear, he's not against the mass deportations, just the big government way that Trump wants to go about it. Watch this.
If they send the army into New York and you have 10,000 troops marching, carrying semi-automatic weapons, I think it's a terrible image and I will oppose that. But it's not that I oppose removing people. I just object to what has been against the law for over 100 years, and that's using the army.
But deputizing the National Guard, that specifically is the proposal. You also oppose that.
I don't think it's the best way to do it. It's less clear whether that's legal or illegal. Typically, it has to be done at the behest of the governors. I still don't like a militarization of police, whether it's National Guard or Army. I think there's a lot of FBI.
Okay.
There's a lot of Border Patrol agents. There's a better way to do it, and it needs to be individualized. That doesn't mean I'm any less serious about getting it done. It just needs to be done according to the law and consistent with our traditions.
And Rand Paul has been hitting the MAGA TV circuit as well to get this message out. On Newsmax, Paul said, quote, "I will not support an emergency to put the army into our cities. I think that is a huge mistake." Paul also added that while he is supportive of Trump and, quote, "removing people illegally here, particularly people who have committed crimes, he doesn't want the army to be used to do so." Quote, "I'm not for the army marching up and down our streets," said Paul. Meanwhile, other Trump voters beyond just libertarians, we're talking like traditional MAGA voters, DeSantis voters, and beyond, are also increasingly unhappy with his picks. A lot of Trump voters are very upset that Trump picked Dr. Janet Nesheiwat to be the Surgeon General because, well, she believes COVID exists and that vaccines are good. This 2021 screenshot of an exchange between MeidasTouch editor-in-chief Ron Filipkowski and Dr. Nesheiwat is going viral on MAGA Twitter right now. Ron had posted a video of a MAGA woman saying that the pandemic was over, and then Trump's Surgeon General pick had responded, quote, "Sadly, the pandemic is not over. There are mobile morgues in Florida, Alabama, and there is a shortage of oxygen in Louisiana, South Carolina. There's a lack of ICU beds. Hospitalizations in kids is highest ever. Deaths have gone up 1,200 per day. Do not give up. Get vaxxed." Just for a second, isn't it wild that that's why MAGA doesn't like her? Just such a bizarro world. John Cardillo, who is a pro-Trump pundit, also appears to be furious at Donald Trump's selections. This is what he wrote about Trump's pick for Treasury Secretary, a guy by the name of Scott Bessent. He quoted a CNN piece that said, "Jay Timmons, the manufacturing trade group CEO, who in January 2021 called for Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from power, praised Trump's decision to hire Bessent." And then he added, quote, "This will be a solidly establishment administration." Here were some of the replies that he received. Somebody by the name of Rhino Hunter wrote, quote, "This is another terrible Trump pick, associated with Soros for years. Trump is establishment." Another user said, quote, "Judging from the reaction of our opposition, you might just be right. What a shame. We did not vote for this." Somebody else replied, "So disappointed in so many selections. This one, a Soros former employee, I read as well." Cardillo responded, quote, "Bessent was much more than a Soros employee. He was a partner at Soros funds for years, who then received a $2 billion investment from Soros in 2015 to start his own fund." Another wrote, quote, "A couple good picks and the rest are seriously just as bad as last time." Another Trump supporter is using a very threatening tone towards Trump, as Yashar Ali notes. Scott Ritter, a convicted pedophile, a disgraced U.S. Marine, a good friend of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is using a very threatening tone here, Ali said. Interesting. This tweet from Ritter that he shared said, "We made our will crystal clear. No to war, F around and find out. Even Trump is not immune to the will of the people. He promised no war. He better effing deliver." And this is, I think, in response to Trump stocking his administration full of known war hawks. Meanwhile, over on Truth Social, they are making some pretty big discoveries over there. A user by the name of Real MAGA Patriot 777 wrote, "Wait, China doesn't pay the tariffs?" All caps. Yep, the find out stage has officially begun ahead of schedule. Meanwhile, it's important that we still highlight the good of the Biden-Harris administration because we know that Trump is going to try to take credit for it. As of Monday, the White House says that $1 trillion of private sector money has now been put towards clean energy technology and manufacturing. These investments were spurred by Biden legislation such as the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Infrastructure Act and the CHIPS Act. Another reason why this is interesting, these huge sums of private sector money pouring into the economy and the popularity of the legislation's tax credits and more may just make it less appealing for Trump to try to roll back at least one key aspect of Biden's agenda. This is going to be something that Trump and his administration are going to have to confront, and that's people realizing that they actually like and rely on the bills signed into law by President Biden. Remember when Mike Johnson was asked recently if he would try to get rid of the CHIPS Act, and he said yes, and then he had to pretend that he misheard the question after because of the outrage his comments received? That's an example right there of why your voices still matter, even in this Trump era. So get loud, continue to make noise. Do not let them take away your will to fight, because that is exactly what they want. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe. Also, remember to go ahead and give us a follow over at Blue Sky. Thanks again. I'll see you soon.
So, Crimea fucking river, right? Too bad. You know, libertarians are, you know, they're always, how can I say it? They're always the people that are always bitching they don't get everything their way. Okay? And they're in a lot of ways they're just as crazy as the fucking MAGA group is, you know. And I feel like, you know, why does any politician have to have a figurehead, you know, of any group of people in there? Do they think just, you know, having that is going to guarantee that they're going to get what they want? Of course not. You know, at the end of the day, what you want is someone who's going to listen. Okay, not do, but listen, because, you know, if you tell them what you want to have done, then they'll know what to do. But if you put somebody in there who already has an agenda, okay, then, you know, who do you think is going to get priority? You or they're what they want, right? So that's the way it is with a lot of these cabinet picks that Trump has been picking, is a lot of these people have their own agenda, and it aligns with what Trump wants to do. And they didn't take the job because, you know, the people wanted me here for this or that. No. That's not the reason why that they're there. They're there because, you know, Trump wants this and that, and I'm going to be there for him. Not for you all behind me shouting at me, but for Trump. Every one of his picks is that, okay? Every single one of them so far. So the libertarians can be mad. MAGA can be mad. Everybody can be mad about what Trump has done, but it was all predicted. You know, everybody was telling him, I was telling him, you know, you guys are, you're counting your chickens before they hatch. They thought, oh, it's going to be great and all this and that. You know, I can't think of a story that could be more biblical than this one here, you know, in a way that, once again, people are going to have to be taught a lesson that you would probably see in Aesop's Tales or something, you know. You know, the things that, you know, because they didn't read anything when they were growing up, because, you know, oh, you can't read this yet. You know, these people didn't learn anything growing up, and so it made them easy fodder. They're easy targets to scam, to bullshit. And boy, did it come across loud and clear that MAGA is not anywhere as awake of what's going on, woke rather, than Iraq. You know, they've been sleeping under it. Apparently they didn't, you know, a lot of these people forgot what it was like under him for 4 years. You know, the farmers didn't, okay? The farmers didn't think that, you know, he deserved to go back in there, but no. They just forget about what happened in the first trade war with China there, and how that ended up hurting it. And we're still paying for that, by the way. The farmers haven't really recovered. They've been subsidized by the government for 4 years as they struggled to try to get their crops back. And, you know, that's how devastated, you know, his trade war was to the people, the farmers in this country. They ruined their crops for that son of a bitch, because, you know, they couldn't sell anything. You know. But you know, it's like I said, it's not really, you know, a surprise, you know, that these people are mad. It was totally predictable. We all knew this was going to happen. Economists were warning us, you know, that his ideas are going to lead to great inflation rise, possibly a recession. People are going to be unemployed, but it'll be fine for the rich, right? Because they'll have tax cuts, right? So they'll have more of our money, back in their pockets. Another great sucking sound of all our wealth going right back to the top, which is okay with MAGA, I guess. The fact that they raged so much, for years about billionaires controlling the government and all this shit and that, and what do? They elect not once but twice the king fucking billionaire in the world, along with Elon Musk. Okay, they basically got exactly what they didn't want. And speaking about people not getting what they want, here's this other video here of Sage Steele and Sean Hannity here talking about the 4B movement. So let's go to that here.
What do you make of this 4B movement? The women that are shaving their heads, the women that are, quote, withholding sex, the women that are threatening to divorce their husbands and stockpiling abortion pills.
They're psychotic, frankly, but they're not real women in that way, in my mind, I guess. They're not desirable women. I guess I'm going to try to speak for most red-blooded American men like yourself. At the end of the day, I do think, and I'm not trying to be mean or insensitive, but I do think the Trump derangement syndrome has just gone off the cliff here. And there is something wrong upstairs, in my mind, for so many of these women who are reacting that way.
That was Sage Steele, a former host over at ESPN who is now trying her hand at political commentary. So far, it's not really going well, but I guess that depends on who you ask. In a recent appearance on Sean Hannity's show on Fox News, Steele said that women who are withholding dating, sex, marriage, and children from the men in their lives who are Trump supporters are not only psychotic, but they are undesirable and not real women. But if they're undesirable, then who cares? The men won't want them anyway, and their crusade will be a bust, right? We'll talk about the 4B movement that Hannity brought up, but let's hear the rest of what Steele had to say.
The scary thing is that I think a lot of them are smart, educated women who are choosing to believe these things. And that's why the Democrats have pushed it for so long, though, because it has proven to work. This is the first time, though, to the shock and dismay of the left, that it hasn't worked. And I've looked at some of the demographics from this past election, which is 3 weeks ago yesterday, hard to believe. 18 to 24-year-old women. Didn't Trump win that demographic? So really, people have begun, sane women have begun to do their homework and not just go for the low-hanging fruit that the left throws out there at them.
Okay, so the 4B movement started in South Korea and it's picking up steam in various places around the world, including the US. As I mentioned, women are withholding dating, sex, marriage, and children from men who support Trump or are otherwise misogynistic. And why shouldn't they be withholding these things from men who don't respect them anyway? Why would anyone, male or female, hang out with someone who doesn't respect them or think they have rights to things like their own bodies or healthcare or an independent income? A lot of women stopped dating Trump supporters long before there was a term for it, before there was a movement for them to be a part of. And if Trump supporters think these women aren't real women or aren't desirable, then I don't know why they care. These aren't the women they're looking for. Of course, it's all very Les Estrada, and those women were actually successful in getting what they wanted by withholding sex from the men in their lives, so maybe that's what these Trumper men are actually afraid of. And they're already mad about women not wanting to date them. There was a huge uproar from conservative men when surveys found that men who identified as conservatives or Trump supporters weren't as successful in the dating field.
This list is crazy, and I want to fixate on the third spot there, the Joe Rogan podcast. Millions of people around the world, I train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. Now, this probably doesn't mean anything to you, but for millions of people, Joe Rogan is the most listened to person, by my calculations, in the world. He has 3.5-hour-long podcasts. I recommend listening to them on 3.5 speed.
To cope, some men have just decided to hide their political leanings from the women they're dating instead of being upfront about any of it. In other words, they thought lying about these women, by omission maybe, about their fundamental beliefs about women and insulting the women by not allowing them to make informed decisions for themselves would endear these same women to them. And that's why they had to move over to their own conservative dating app. They needed a safe space to be away from these mean and undesirable women.
I just wanted to let John know that I got my sweatshirt from his dating website that says "Dump Your Liberal Boyfriend," and I'm going to be wearing it. And for all the single girls out there, I'm going to be wearing that and encouraging them to get on your website and find themselves a nice conservative man, because conservative men are more successful, classier. They pick up a bill, they open a door. So girls, dump your liberal boyfriend now.
And John will definitely be having you back on very soon to talk about the right stuff. Very curious about how that's doing.
I will level with y'all. There is a certain level of imposter syndrome that comes with doing a job like this. It's similar to working in any kind of creative field. On one hand, you have to acknowledge that you're not ever going to be at the level you would like to be. But on the other hand, you have to understand that you are objectively good enough to make a career out of it. It's a very confusing and constant push-pull. However, a big part of doing jobs like this one, as is the case in many, many industries, especially these days, is getting the exposure you need from someone who has some kind of booking or platforming authority to notice you. Sage Steele, from her time working with ESPN, had that exposure, but she actually left ESPN on not great terms. She outed herself as a female misogynist on the sports network, making controversial comments about female sports reporters. She also spoke disparagingly about vaccine mandates, and she questioned how Black Barack Obama really is. She was ultimately removed from the network after her comments sparked backlash from the audience. She apologized for making the comments, but then she sued and settled with ESPN over their alleged violation of her First Amendment rights. Now she's tapped into the conservative network, rebranded herself, and landed herself a spot on Fox News. And good for her, she put in the work and she ended up somewhere that is now more in line with her own personal ideals and values. And we all know that Fox News loves a token. Fox News is, for right-wing media, the pinnacle of it. If I was an ambitious right-wing political pundit, if I got a spot on Fox News, I would probably be very happy about it. But Sage Steele has her work cut out for her. She's back on television and she has to make a new name for herself, throwing herself into a different beat than the one that she's built her career off of. Maybe she was chasing a viral moment to help kickstart her new career. And what better way to go viral than to insult your own demographic? It's so edgy, right? I mean, I'm talking about it, aren't I? But if her past comments on ESPN are any indicator, this is who she is, and these are the things she believes. And we over here on the left can act incredulous about all of it, but the truth of the matter is that there are plenty of conservative women who believe in things like traditional gender roles, for example. I personally don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. If it works for you and your family, then fine. But choosing to live that way and choosing to raise your family that way is still a choice that you get to make. And that is no different from what the women partaking in the 4B movement are doing for themselves, all right? That's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.
So I don't get these guys here that are all pissing and moaning here because their girlfriend or their spouse left them after they found out that, he voted for Trump, or even the women who lost their husbands, I guess, for the same reason. Why should they care, right? I mean, you find out that the person that you were married to or dating is of MAGA mentality. Hell, I'd fucking split. Because you'd never be able to, the way they think and the way you think just wouldn't mesh, ever, okay? The values are all different. The principles are all different, okay? They might look good and everything on the outside, but hey, trust me, it takes more than looks to sustain a relationship. I mean, people find that out every single day in this world, okay? But, these people, I think a lot of these people, probably for years might have known that whoever they were dating or married to probably was right-leaning, eccentric or something in some ways, and maybe they were just finding an excuse to try to hang on to that person. But I think maybe because, of this past election and so many women out there dumping the people are with, or guys dumping the people they're with, I guess maybe that you could say it's a motivation or an encouragement to say, look, dump this fucker. Okay, you're not happy, and leave them. Just leave him, leave her, whatever. Okay, just leave the situation. And because they see so many other people doing it, they feel like, oh well, I guess I won't feel so like it's an isolated thing, right? You know, that it's not so unusual that I did this. So it's like encouragement, you know, for everybody to feel like they can do this now. You know, for Sage Steele there to come out and call these women that are leaving the guys, you know, psychotic and they're not real women and stuff. Who the fuck is she to say any of that crap? You know? I mean, she's sitting there believing the things that she believes, right? And just because she believes them and thinks they're right, she's going to judge everybody else for being wrong or being psychotic because they don't agree with her. That's the very fucking reason why people are leaving folks like that. Is because it's with them, it's their way or the highway. All right? And the fact that they're out there now with living up that, or living that fucking philosophy of my way or the highway, now they're regretting it. It's like, oh, why did they leave me? You know, it's like, well, hey, you're with the group of people that says my way or the highway, and now that they've taken the highway and left your ass, now you're like, huh? You didn't think they were going to do it, did you? You know? So these people, you know, are learning a really hard lesson here. And like I said, it's a lesson that needed to be taught because people don't learn anything unless it's done the hard way. All right, so MAGA's learning a very hard lesson here. And I know there's going to be some of them that'll double down on their arrogance and say, oh, I don't care, I don't care. If they do care. All right, they do care. If they didn't care, why are they making so many videos and posts, you know, talking about what they lost because of the election and everything, and they don't understand, and they say they don't understand why they did what they did. You know, it's not that, it's, you know, the reason is, it's not that people are just politically dedicated, I guess you could say. The reasons these people are leaving each other has nothing to do with that. It's about finding out that, hey, this guy, this girl that I've been dating, that I've been married to, supports racism, supports misogyny, supports deporting people out of this country, supports all the wacko policies that Trump is trying to impose on this country that's going to cripple it, doesn't care about, you know, how this is going to affect families across the country. His principles are their principles, okay? And they how can somebody they thought they loved be like that on the inside? They're married or they're dating a monster, you know? It has nothing to do about, oh, he's a Republican or she's a Republican. It's about, oh, she believes this, he believes this. You know, that's what this is about. You know, I wouldn't, like, if I, you know, was married to somebody and it came out later that they agreed to everything that Adolf Hitler did, you get the hell out of here. Okay? Or what about these women who find out that their husbands were serial killers? Okay, let's take BTK. His family for years never suspected one bit that their father or their husband was out there doing that shit. Okay? They thought they were in a loving relationship, and then they find out what he was doing. Can you blame him for saying goodbye, you know, or divorce? Same fucking thing when it comes to this. This isn't about, you know, R versus D. This is about right and wrong versus wrong and wrong. Okay? That's what this is. We're finding out there's a lot of people with some pretty funky, screwed up ideas out there that really don't mesh with the goodness in other people who try to live their lives, you know, in a good way. They don't want to be looked at as being racist. Okay? They don't want to be seen as being part of a group of people who are just eager to take away people's privacy and their civil liberties and, you know, destroy a whole group of people just because you don't like their skin colors. They don't want to be associated with that. There might be some that will, but, you know, whoever's left you isn't that person. So you were never going to be happy with them anyway. You might have thought you were, but you weren't, okay? Now that you know what they are, now everything goes into question. This is why I say when when people date and they date each other, that's the time to get to know each other, okay? And yes, politics plays an important role with that just as much as religion. Those two things will destroy a relationship if you don't know what you're walking into. But for some reason, people are too afraid to talk about things on either of those things. And if you're looking to get serious or get married, you better fucking talk about it. You better talk about it, because it will destroy a relationship, okay, if you don't. And that's what's happened here. We're finding out a lot of people didn't bother talking about these things when they were dating and after they got married. They, and then all of a sudden, things come out little by little, and then all of a sudden, oh, guess what? I voted for Trump. Then all of a sudden, hey, that is it. That's it. That's it. But, this woman here, Sage Steele, I mean, where do Fox, they always find the people with controversial backgrounds, and people of low character to be on their show and talk about things, okay? I wonder how many people who watch Fox News and see her actually really know where she came from, okay? Because I think they're going to find that, this woman here is probably like a step away from being a Klansman or a Klanswoman or whatever you want to call. She's a misogynist. All right, the things that she said while she was on ESPN and stuff got her kicked out of there. And the only place that would take her in for a home there is Fox News, because, hey, any misogynist and any racist is welcome here on Fox News. We want you, That's your home. That's where she ended up. So... anyway, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
Me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
To get Matt Gaetz installed, there is a very real threat that the media, both the corporate media and independent media, face from Donald Trump getting back into the White House, especially if he is able to get Matt Gaetz installed as the Attorney General. Gaetz is going to be the enforcer. He is going to be the guy that will not tell Donald Trump no. So if Trump says go out there, prosecute media outlets, everybody from the big ones like ABC and NBC all the way down to the small ones like me, Gaetz will try to do it. Which brings me to my next question. This one comes from YouTube user @MariaMartinez-Researcher, who asks, how are you and other political YouTubers preparing for likely censorship and persecution? Well, I don't know. I have heard from other people that do this, much bigger than me, people that I am friends with. They're actually very, very concerned about it. And they do think that Donald Trump could come after them. There is a very real fear among those people. Again, those are people that are bigger than me. And so they're way more freaked out, I think, than I am. But the persecution part of it,
I'm glad you brought that up, because that, of course, is a separate issue than just being politically targeted, which is scary enough. But the persecution, the amount of death threats that I have received through my cell phone, my email, and believe it or not, even through my wife's cell phone, has been overwhelming. It has been constant. Since November 5th, I have had people email me, screenshotting my personal information, sending it to me, letting me know that they are planning on releasing that to the public so that people can go after me. If you follow me on Instagram, which you all should be doing, you've seen some of these threats because I have posted them. And so the persecution part of it, that part is terrifying. These people having my personal information and dangling it over my head, that's horrifying, right? I have children. Like, yes, I mean, I'm worried about myself, but obviously I'm more worried about my children. I'm more worried about my wife. They've got her cell phone number somehow. I am worried about them coming after her. I've been worried about DeSantis coming after her because, again, she is an educator in a public school here in the state of Florida. I've been worried about him coming after her just because of the things I've said and done. And so it is horrifying. Like, I'm far more vigilant now. Honestly, kind of avoiding going in public whenever I can. And I don't want to become like a total, recluse, but it is scary. Like, going to the grocery store is scary because I live in a deep red area. I pass people every day with, the crazy Trump bumper stickers, not just MAGA, but like really awkward, weird ones. I pass people with Trump flags. And all of that, by the way, was not happening before the election. They all put this shit on after the election because they didn't want people to know. But anyway, it is terrifying. So I think each one of us that do this in our own way, we are worried about what happens to us personally and our families. Some are more worried about, being the targets of criminal investigations. Not that they've done anything wrong, but, they worry about the problems with that. Others, myself, more worried about our safety because that seems to be the thing that they're threatening the most.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
welcome back, people. There's this thing. I want to remind people of something here, in case you forgot. All right, because this has been the situation here with Trump here for a long time, even as he was campaigning here. There are countries in the world that have a ban on him setting foot on their soil, okay? And there's like, I guess, 32 countries that don't want him around. And let me just name here, Argentina, Australia, Canada, China, Cuba, India, Iran. Iran, in fact, has an arrest warrant out for him, as well as Iraq. Israel, Japan, Kenya, Macau, New Zealand, South Africa, Taiwan, United Kingdom, Brazil, Cambodia, Chile, Dominican Republic, Egypt, Ethiopia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Ireland, Malaysia, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Peru, Philippines, Singapore, South Korea, Tanzania, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, and United Arab Emirates. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here of worldwide repercussions here when they find out that Trump had won this presidency. And what's sad here is that, you know, how are we going to be able to function on an international level when the rest of the world doesn't even want to acknowledge Trump as the president here, you know? Okay, I mean, not that I wouldn't want to, you know, I'm just saying, you know, how is he supposed to be effective? I mean, these people that voted for him, did they even think any bit about that, or is it that I don't care what they think? Well, you got to care, because we don't just stand alone in the world now. We're all connected, like it or not. Our economies are connected. All right, and that's thanks to NAFTA, which the Republicans and the Democrats put into place. We've been a united economy around the world here ever since then. And it's well established, and now we can't just act like pricks and just bar ourselves from the rest of the world. We can't do that. It affects us as much as it would other countries. But, you know, here's this story here from The Guardian, written by Libby Brooks, who was a Scotland correspondent. America's gone mad. Disbelief in Ayrshire, Scotland, near Trump's golf course. The sun is pressing through the low-grey clouds above Turnberry Beach in Ayrshire, where Alan Ringrose is walking his dog. He shakes his head at the emerging news from across the Atlantic. Quote, "I think America's gone mad," unquote, he says. Quote, "How can you elect a criminal as the president?" Unquote. Disbelief is overriding emotion as the reality of a second Trump presidency sinks in. Quote, "I don't get it. Perhaps people were afraid to elect a black woman." Unquote. Ringrose, who cares for the local bowling green in his retirement, gestures across the dunes to the terraced lawns of the five-star Trump Turnberry Hotel. It is one of two luxury golfing resorts owned by President-elect Trump in Scotland. The other is in Aberdeenshire. Quote, "He has done a lot for the area, but as a politician," unquote, Ringrose trails off. Further down the windswept beach, Elizabeth Kogan is taking her Jack Russell Molly for a stroll. She is also quick to acknowledge the investment Trump has made in the local economy. But as a world leader, quote, "It's a total disaster. He's a fascist. He's against women. He's homophobic. He's racist. It is a shock because I thought people would have come to their senses and realized what kind of man he is. It's difficult with politics because you have to respect different opinions, but look how he divides people, the way he treats immigrants," unquote. Of particular concern to Kogan are the billionaires with whom Trump surrounds himself, many of whom wield powerful influence like Elon Musk. Quote, "Someone with such wealth has no understanding of how normal people live," unquote, says Kogan. His victory will resonate far beyond the U.S., she adds, citing Ukraine, Gaza, and the climate as immediate areas of concern. Kogan remembers the comedian Janie Godley, who died last Saturday protesting on this very beach with her succinct handwriting sign reading, quote, Trump is a cunt, unquote, which brought her worldwide viral fame as well as vitriol. Quote, she was an ordinary working person who understood, unquote, says Kogan. Trump, whose mother, Mary Ann McLeod, was born on the Isle of Lewis before immigrating to New York at the age of 18, has had a vexed relationship with Scotland's leaders. He clashed with Alex Salmond over his resort expansion plans in Aberdeen, and described Nicola Sturgeon as a, quote, failed woke extremist, unquote, while he called the First Minister, John Sweeney's backing of Kamala Harris last week, quote unquote, an insult to his investment in Scotland by his business, Trump International. Sweeney formally congratulated Trump on Wednesday, but raised concerns about the potential impact of the proposed import tariffs on the Scotch whiskey industry. Dave McDade was a member of the Turnberry Golf Course until 2016, when illness stopped him playing regularly. Quote, it's so expensive now. Trump has put it out of reach of normal people. I heard a round of golf costs £500, unquote. Indeed, next year the cost of a tee time for the Ailsa course, wildly ranked as one of the best golf courses in the world and former host to the Open Championship, will increase to £545, with greens fees rising to £1,000 at peak times. Around lunchtime, the course is almost deserted, with only a handful of cars in the clubhouse park, which is surrounded by cabbage palms with an ornate central fountain that matches the one in the hotel's courtyard. Quote, I'm surprised that people voted for him after all the stuff he's come out with, unquote, adds McDade, who now plays at the more affordable course in Stranraer. Others prefer to keep their counsel on the man who, as one points out, quote, pays a lot of local wages, unquote. Another man with relatives in the United States says she has seen how Biden's economic failures have affected them directly and is glad that Trump has won. Given the largely gloomy tenure of the local response, another offers a glimmer of hope. Quote, the only good thing is that he can't run again, so we just have to get through the next 4 years, unquote. Yeah, so you could see, you know, it's deflating for some people, you know, to see that he's back in it, because they weren't very happy with him when he was president that first time. All right, and they're not saying that there's going to be any change. In fact, in some ways, it might be even worse. It certainly will be for us here at home. Okay, I could tell you that, regardless of what he does internationally. But, you know, we're going to be taking the punishment. And I just hope that there's still enough common sense and guts left in the government here to be able to pressure Trump not to do certain things. From what I understand, the House is very, very close, maybe one or two seats, maybe, if that, which means that, you know, basically it's a toss-up, and, you know, who controls the House. If the Democrats stay unified and oppose Trump, you know, it might help to slow some shit down, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, financial things and, you know, economic things and like that, because that's what they really control. And they can defund things or something like that. But all the Democrats are going to have to stay together this time. They cannot, you know, we can't have any Joe Manchins or, you know, cinemas in the fucking party. Those people are going to have to be behind all the other Democrats in the House in order to get this thing. I know that's asking a lot, because, like I've been saying, Democrats are like a herd of cats. You can't get them all together. All right, and it's just they're going to have to, for 4 years, they're going to have to put that aside. At least for the next 2 years, until we have the elections, the midterms. Once we get to the midterms, okay, maybe we can make more gains, and then it won't have to be so stringent. But for 2 years, can they do this just for 2 fucking years, okay? Can they try at once in their fucking life? Can they just stay unified for 2 fucking years? You know? For the sake of the whole country, for the sake of people trying to survive out there, okay? they really need to just put aside their individual issues, okay, because of the worst president we're ever going to have for a second time. The worst president, all right, they're going to have to be unified, because you know goddamn well the Republicans will be, okay? And if they are unified, then, you know, we have to make it difficult for them to get anything done, because they'll probably have to have Democrat votes in order to get anything. And if the Democrat votes aren't there, you know, then, hey, it's not going to be so easy for them. And, well, here's a look here of how some people in other parts of the world think about Trump.
I want to know why you're such a cunt. Hey, Donald Trump. I want to know why you're such a cunt. Hey, Donald Trump. I want to know why you're such a.
Yeah, so yeah, it's that's when they started singing that, you know. Nobody has much love for the man, and I can't blame people for being saying what they're saying or singing, making up shit like that. Okay, I can't blame people for that. He's really pissed off a lot of folks across the globe here. And I shudder to think what he's going to end up doing when he is officially in there as president, and Ukraine, you know, finds that it needs help. They're not going to be able to look to the United States, because Trump's not going to help them. Okay, and NATO is going to have to step up as a whole and help them out from here. Okay, because we've done, you know, as much as we could do for Biden, under Biden, and now that he's leaving, I guess, you know, the only thing that, you know, they need is to continue to get supplies, military supplies and stuff like that to keep the fight going. And if Trump decides he's going to pitch in with Putin, okay, those bans that I read off there in the list of countries that don't want him around, they're all going to issue arrest warrants and charges against him for crimes against humanity, right along with Putin, okay? Because they got charges on him already waiting, okay? So, you know, if he wants to elevate his infamous status in this world, that's the way to do it, okay? To throw his hat in the ring with Vladimir Putin, okay? You get in there with him, and I guarantee you, our country is gonna be you know, it's gonna be hated. All right, and you know, I like I said, why should any of us support a man that's going to support a communist dictator? All right, you know, this brings me back to, you know, weeks ago, I guess, talking to people online about John F. Kennedy and the assassination, because it happened in November years ago, and I'm amazed at, you know, how many people are still thinking that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only person that did it, okay? In the face of all the evidence that says, you know, he couldn't have done all of this all by himself. You know, there's just too much to do for an ordinary guy to have pulled off what he did, okay? It takes more than a guy with a gun to get into a public building, get up on the top floor, sit in a window, and somehow fire shots from 3 different angles while staying in the same window. Okay, you can't do that unless you got other people involved. But they don't want to admit that. But the thing of it is, you know, and it's I'm not trying to bring it up because of, you know, anything like that, is that you know, people in the world, they're just people basically, you know, reviled communism, okay? They hated that. And you go way back in those days, in the 60s and, you know, in the 50s even, communism was like treated like terrorists. You know, anyone that was a communist, you know, would hey, that's it. You know, you point somebody, hey, he's a communist. Shit, you know, they would come after you. You know, the FBI, and they would interrogate you and everything. But these days, you know, it's like people who talk like communists and stuff like that. It's all different. And you know, you wonder, what did we not teach these people about communism that they can be so easily swayed to think that the ideas of communism being expelled out of the mouth of an American makes it any better. You know, because the things Trump have been saying, you know, are basically rooted in communist rhetoric, you know, and in ideals. Okay, we've seen those things happen in these, you know, like China and Russia and stuff like that. These kind of things happen, you know, rounding up people and exporting them, concentration camps, all these things we've seen in these countries. Okay, and so he's sitting here talking about this, and people don't seem to make the connection. You know, it's like, when has there ever been a time in the world where this stuff is okay? You know, you need to talk, you know, to any survivors of the Holocaust, to people like George Takei, who was a little kid growing up in a camp in the United States for all the Asian Americans. Okay, because we were at war with Japan, and now everybody that was an Asian was considered, oh, they could be a spy, they could be this, that. You know, the paranoia is what put them in there. Okay, talk to these people and ask them what it was like. Okay, and if you still think it's okay to put Latinos in there, whether they're American or not, then I say there's no hope for you, because you belong in one of those communist countries that I was talking about. Okay, for you, communism is okay. You wouldn't have liked living in this country as it was back in the 50s and 60s, because people, if they even sounded like, you know, they were, you know, that was it. And for some people, they say that's the reason why they shot Kennedy, why he ended up dead, was because, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis. He made that deal to get rid of the weapons in Turkey, all right? And trade for the Russians pulling out the weapons in Cuba. Well, hey, and the military didn't like that. And what do they do when they didn't like that? They say, oh, he's a communist. That was like putting a scarlet letter on him. After a while, people are going to start hating him, and before you know it, an assassination. They did that to Martin Luther King Jr. They labeled him a communist because of the things that he said. All right? All he was talking about was unifying the people, you know, to bring down the racial barriers, for people to start looking at each other as equal. No. They didn't want to hear that. So they labeled him a communist. And before you know it, another one. Okay? So, like I said, you know, today, you know, it doesn't matter if you're a communist. In fact, they would applaud you for talking like one these days. And that's really the sad part, is between then and now, something in the middle was missing. Nobody you know, carried on the idea that the ideals of communism were bad. Somewhere along the way, people smoothed it over, basically, for the population, the younger generation. Okay, and I think that you know, because of that, we've made it okay for people slowly over the generations to let people like Donald Trump finally get in the wings. Okay, and that's the reason why we find ourselves where we are now, and why it's you know, for us to take that next step that Trump wants to take to support Putin in his fight in Ukraine would be an absolute betrayal of all the things this country stands for. We don't support countries invading sovereign nations, okay? We never did. Okay, why do you think we were watching what was going on in Vietnam so closely? Because we thought China was helping out, you know, the Viet Cong over there to take over that region, and the United States wasn't going to stand for it, right? We didn't want China taking that region, because that would be pushing outward of their doctrine into another country that, you know, was in a civil war. and so they needed to have American troops over there to push back, which you know how that all ended. And in the end, we lost that anyway. But the thing of it is that it was so important to us back then to keep communism at bay. Why do you think we got ships out in the Pacific right now guarding Taiwan? Okay, because they know China is looking at that as their next target. Okay, and Taiwan also, you know, we have a lot of business ties with them over the many, many, many years that we've been allied with them. You know, that country has detached itself from China to try to be its own country, and they deserve to have that singular thing. You know, if they want to be their own country, they should have it. China wants it back. Taiwan don't know. They don't know. We don't want to go back. So, you know, the United States is over there protecting Taiwan. But you see, wherever there's communism rearing its ugly head, that's where we are to try to stop it. That's why we're helping out Ukraine, because again, Russia's trying to take territory back. That used to be theirs. Ukraine is like, no, we are a country now. We're our own country. And we don't want to be taken back. We weren't happy being under the Soviet Union when we were there. All right. And over the last, how many years it's been since they broke up, you know, they've managed to create their own country down there, and it's been going pretty well. And it's not fair that just as they start to really flourish as a country, Russia decides, I want that country. Putin decides, I want that country. I want it back. Why? What possible reason do you need to go in there with your military and take that country? He says, originally he said, it's full of Nazis. Well, if it was, you wouldn't be invading it because they'd be your allies. You know, they'd be kissing your ass, okay, because these are people that are like-minded, all right? If he really believed that. But no, he didn't believe that. He wanted that country because it was his own personal mission to reclaim all that was lost, you know, under an old regime that fell apart under its own weight, okay? They deliberately starved the people in their country just to feed the military everything that they could come up with, okay? And they had all kinds of scandal in that country. Businessmen were screwing out the system all right and left, like they're doing now. Actually, they're still at it right now. That's why they're having such a hard time right now keeping ordnance and stuff like that for their troops, because you've got business people over there in Russia that are screwing the system right and left and taking money out of the Kremlin and they can't keep their troops supplied. It's become almost an impossibility. That's why do you think they reached out to North Korea? Okay, they send in their military to mix with Russian military, okay, because hey, North Korea brings their own military and weapons and stuff, so we don't have to worry as much. But you know, they're still outgunned by Ukraine and with NATO's help. But no. This is but like I said, this is what we're looking at here is people in our country backing this kind of mentality, and Trump is that mentality. He is that communist, American communist in this country. And when you give an inch, when you let just one person come in there that's like that, before you know it, you're going to push that line a little bit more for the next one, and a little bit more for the next one, until you come to a critical mass where all of a sudden it's very easy just to say, that's it, no more elections. Okay, I'm declaring that we don't need that anymore. And all presidents will be in there for life. Because by the time you get to that last line, the last straw, there's not going to be any opposition, any powerful enough to prevent it. And what do you think why they're tearing down government agencies? Why do you think they want to do away with the Department of Education and this and that and everything else? Okay, it's to shrink the government down to the point where it's easier to just go like that, to kill it. And then they're going to replace it with something else. Just like that, because the funding, will be cut, and all that extra money that doesn't go to the government will go straight to the fucking top. All right, because hey, if they're not paying taxes anymore, then guess what? You know, all the wealth is back to the top 1%. The rest of us are nothing but paupers. You know, which I never really understood that concept, to be honest. I'll tell you something. A lot of the richest people in this country are rich because of industries that they've created. You know, like Walmart, you know, and big companies like that that depend on consumer participation to get people to buy. Well, if people can't buy anymore, if they can't buy even the smallest fucking thing, how are these rich people going to stay rich? Who's going to buy their worthless stock if nobody's actually buying anything? You know, who are they going to cater to? I mean, it just seems to me like it's a lose-lose situation. Okay, you know, for stores, you know, and companies like that, to simply make it so unreachable for the average person here in the country to be able to go buy gas, to go buy the basics, groceries, and things like that. When it's so expensive, who is going to be able to keep the market going? You think that the rich people can just continually buy each other's stock in Wall Street for the rest of eternity? And, you know, that's just artificially creating value that doesn't even exist. Okay, that's like buying air. All right, when you do it like that, because nobody's breathing the air, but you're just buying it anyway. Okay, same fucking thing. You got stuff out there in these stores and nobody's buying a fucking thing. Well, what do you think they're going to do? They're just going to fold up all the stores, and then these people with their wealth, well, they got money, they ain't got nothing to do with it, except just, you know, buy this, buy, you know, a boat, and buy a car, buy a house. All right. Meantime, that money that they're spending on, you know, is being wasted on their personal greed, while everybody else is out there starving because they don't have a place to live, they ain't got much to eat, you know. And why should they even want to have kids, you know, in a situation like that? You want to talk about destroying a country, that's the quickest way to do it right there, is to take everything away from everybody. Then you got nothing. You know, you have fucking nothing. And, you know, you wouldn't even have a government after a while. The government would be useless in that situation because, you know, I mean, nobody's buying it. How they couldn't get tax money to fund a government? There's just no government. It would just be run by rich people, you know, just companies. The flag won't mean nothing. It'd just be a symbol of a bygone era, which it almost is now, unfortunately. But that's the real reality here that, you know, we look at if we put people like Trump again and again and again into seats of power, because they won't have to chip away at something. They can just knock big chunks out of the wall when they're in there doing shit because they're the president, right? And when they got control over the majority of the government, like, you know, Trump does now, or what he will be, you know, it's going to be so much easier for them to just dismantle this country, you know, to shrink it down to the size of a, you know, a size of a baby, and you can drown it in a bathtub, you know, whatever they want to say. That's what they're aiming to do. They don't want government around anymore. It's like, okay, so when somebody invades your country, who are you going to call on to fucking defend it? You know, your paid army. We saw what paid armies do over there in Iraq, right? They weren't that great. Okay, these private entities here. What was that? What do they call them? Black Hawk, Black something. I can't remember what the hell they were. These fucking corporate troops and stuff that were over there fucking everything up. Yeah, that's really gonna work, right? You know. Oh boy, I don't know. It's sad, you know. But anyway, that's it for today. And I hope everybody has a great Sunday and rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, and share. And keep your ears open for health issues. And treat each other well out there. And watch yourself driving. So take care, everybody.